Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of the Eternal Backlog Podcast. I hope you guys are doing absolutely superb. It almost feels like summer is finally here. I'm here with Shady, and before we get on with this episode, please give it a like, drop a comment in the comment section. We've got an action-packed episode for you, and if you are joining us, you can join the chapters as well and have a look through all of the different content that we got available for this episode. It is very pretty detailed, this particular episode. A lot of stuff is happening, and a lot of stuff happened the moment the last episode went live. How's it going, Shady?
Yeah, it just makes our jobs a lot harder, doesn't it? I'm doing well. We've got a lot to talk about this episode.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to skip probably over some of the general niceties, so I'll be really quick. General catch-up, I've been all right. Went to Brighton, saw Tenacious D. Does anything noteworthy from your side? I went up, Brighton's pretty usual. Saw a drag queen get their high heels stuck in the floor.
Oh, lovely. No, I've not been to Brighton myself, but I did see pictures on X of Jack, what's his name, Jack Black, walking around Brighton like he was just popping off to Waitrose or something. No
security guards, nothing at all, and he has got one hell of a beard, ladies and gentlemen. You can find samples of all 3 courses of the meals he's had from the last several weeks. But it was a decent gig. To say the least. If you're watching this right now, Hellblade 2 has just come out, and so has XDefiant, which I'm going to touch upon again later on in this particular episode. And we're also Hellblade 2. This on the day that this released on the last episode, we were questioning what on earth is going on with Xbox's marketing team, and we'll get onto that because there's a whole huge segment we've got on Xbox. And I'm really looking forward to getting to the meat and gravy with that, because one thing I've been thinking about a lot, it's about what is going on with Xbox's strategy. So we will come across that. Now, in terms of the rest of the housekeeping, I just want to mention very briefly that for the next few episodes, things are going to be changing up slightly. And the fact that we've got Summer Showcase coming up. And therefore, we're going to give you our reaction to all the major shows that are happening across the agenda. It's not like E3 anymore. We don't even know when Sony are going at the moment. So we know we've got some firm commits from Xbox. We've got obviously Jeff Keighley rolling out, probably a Hideo Kojima again, knowing him. So we'll be there for the Summer Showcase.
You might as well just have dinner on stage at this point.
I know, exactly. And so during that particular stretch, obviously that content's going to go out, so there won't be a podcast during that time. It'll be once that's died down a little bit. But
tons of live reactions.
Tons of live reactions. So much content for you guys to consume. You will not miss out. So that is that. And then lastly, before we get into the thick of things here, the missing D-pad results from last episode. We do have an update in relation to that. Who won the best D-pad? It was Sony, with 35.7%, by a small margin, to be honest with you. Coming in joint second place is both Sega and Microsoft, and of course you'll disagree with that one, Shady.
Sony, they've had the same D-pad since day one. I don't know what's great about it. You can argue the console's exclusivity, the ecosystem, that's all fine, but the D-pad has been the same for 20 years. Xbox, they've had a 50-50 track record, really bad D-pads in the beginning. They're at a place now where it's a lot better, especially with the Elite pad. Sega, still, in my opinion, is it's up there.
It's up there. And did you see that 8-bit release?
The
new
8-bit
Xbox?
Yes.
8-bit though, yeah.
Yeah. I've already got one of their controllers, an Apple-themed Super NES-like controller. It's more of a collector's item than anything else. It just sits on my shelf. But yes, it does look tasty.
Will you possibly get one?
No.
No? All right, fair enough. And then we got our Forgotten Racers results from the last episode itself. And the selections for that, the possibilities were Burnout, Blur, Midnight Club, and Ridge Racer. And Burnout wins it with 42.8%. And then coming in second place is Ridge Racer. By the looks of things, people aren't chomping for a Bizarre... Was it Bizarre Creations that made Blur?
I think so.
I can't remember, but no one's chomping
it's all a
for
blur.
Midnight Club. It is, exactly.
Where did you... actually, I was going to ask you where you laid on that spectrum, but I know you were a Burnout fan, weren't you?
I think it's, Burnout for me, but in the... I mean, I liked Paradise, but I did like the the slight simplicity of Takedown and the fact that it wasn't so easy just to smash cars out of the way. You had to use a bit of skill.
I wouldn't mind a new Burnout game, but for some reason I've just got more of an itch for Ridge Racer. I was on the side of Ridge Racer, to be honest. There's something about the first two on the PS1, Ridge Racer and what was it called? Ridge Racer Revolution. Great games, great soundtrack, especially when you get to the end with the devil and the angel car. It was weird and wonderful. Good old days of Namco.
When I was down in Brighton, obviously they've got all the arcade machines, which I'm still like wrapping my mind around. Obviously, most of them are all ticket based now, right? It's kind of, it's not like the arcades of old time, but they had a Sega Rally there. They had was it Ridge Race? No, it wasn't Ridge Race.
Daytona USA.
Daytona USA, Max TT.
Yeah.
Where I swear I broke a bike one time because I swung it out too hard.
I think we've all done that. Did they have Motor Racer there? That was my favourite bike game. The first one, that is.
I don't think they had that one there. The one that I was really hoping they had still there from years and years ago. Do you remember that skateboarding one?
No.
There was a skateboarding game that was released in arcade, and you'd actually stand on a board. It was like Tony Hawk's Shred, but actually playable.
Oh god, that's a lawsuit. That is a lawsuit. Someone falling off, busting their head open.
The arcades these days, oh god, never the same. Win tickets, spend 20 quid to win 20 quid to win something that's the equivalent of £1.
Or you could just go on Temu and buy it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, speaking of Temu, they're in a bit of trouble. But anyway.
When were they never?
So is Diddy by the looks of things as well. Just see the
footage. That's another podcast, that is. Stay tuned.
That is another podcast. There was some footage going back from 2016. It looks like he went for a kick right on the ground floor. But anyway. Yep. So that is the poll results. And before we get into the thick and bones, I just wanted to touch very, very briefly. Was it the night after that we recorded the last episode that you saw me on PlayStation 5 playing Chasm the Rift?
Next day. Wasn't that night or the next day? Something like that,
I'm not too sure. But we stumbled across some features that we were quite, delighted by. Yeah. Some really interesting features on the PlayStation 5. You had the ability to take over my game, I guess, in 10 frames per second.
Well, see, here's the thing. I've never played online on PS5, even though I've got a PS5 and I've got friends on my list. So as I saw you on there, I was like, screw it. I'll invite you and see what happens. I could see your screen. And that's a feature I've wanted Xbox to do for a while. You just request to see what the person, is playing, and then you get a picture-in-picture window, or you can full screen it. But then you took it a step further and said, hold on, I remember that you had the ability to play my game if I was stuck in a bit of a pickle. I was like, no way. So after a bit of faffing around, you found that option, and I'm there playing your game all the way across the other side of the world. And the bit that struck me as amazing, and we've probably got people listening right now going, oh yeah, of course, that's PlayStation, and that is the fact that the microphone and the speaker on the controller is just so convenient if you don't want to throw the headset on and say, hey, I'm not playing right now, or talk for a couple of minutes rather than have a session.
Yeah, I was really sort of taken back by that, because obviously we've not hidden it. We generally tend to play online on Xbox, and we've said it before that it's nothing against PlayStation, it's just how we've grown up through all the systems over the years. But it's certainly a bit of a tempter, and if things continually to go down the rabbit hole with Microsoft.
We're getting into it. I've got issues with people today. I'm lining them all up. My clips are loaded. Let's go.
All right, so that's that. Viewer question of the episode. If there was one game studio you could buy, who would it be and why? Let us know your thoughts on that. We'll tell you ours on a future episode. And then the question from last week, we told you that we weren't going to tell you until today. And that was around about what is the hottest backlog game of 2024 that's released so far, that it's number one on your tackle list. So we're going to give you the answers to that right now. I'll kick things off. I tried to let you guys know in the short, slightly of a bit of a clue. It's Helldivers 2. It just looks like a ton of fun. Visually, the game looks beautiful. It requires teamwork, active chat, teamwork. Just ticks all of the boxes for me. And the only thing I'm a little worried of is, again, with these live service games, if you wait too late, and how much great stuff are you missing? And I'm going to have to pull the trigger on Helldivers 2 at some point, and then get in there before, because it might, obviously, you'll see in today's podcast, Sony had a few gaffes around that game. So if they do any more gaffes, maybe people will exit out of it. But that was my particular one. And what was yours again?
Mine's a double barrel, actually. So mine's actually Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but because I haven't played Remake as well, Part 1, I'm bundling them together. Massive Final Fantasy VII fan. Waiting to play this for years. Finally got a PlayStation 5. Finally bought them. And for some reason, I just haven't gone and played them. It's just, I think I know I'm in for a 100 to 200 hour adventure, and I don't know if my hard drive can cope with having that much content not being played at the moment. So the backlog persists.
Exactly, indeed. And the best of it looks to be on the Rebirth, from what I've seen anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you got the Golden Saucer, which was always, like a really enjoyable element of that particular game. So that was our responses to the hottest backlog game of 2024 so far. And no doubt there will be some more coming out over the next few months that could steal it, potentially. And we do have our poll for this episode. Who messed up more over the last 2 weeks? If you don't know what that's about, you're about to find out. But who messed up more over the last 2 weeks? Simple poll this week. Sony or Microsoft? So get involved in the poll there. Let's get into the meat and bones. Let's go back to Tuesday, 2 weeks ago.
Warm spring morning. Weather, sun was shining.
We were just getting ready to release the latest episode of the podcast, which I still think was, the most entertaining so far, which you should go back and watch it, really. And Xbox just throws a grenade into the room and walks out.
No reason.
And
no reason. Every 2 weeks this happens now.
So for those that don't already know this situation, and for those that do, bear with us, Xbox announced the closure of numerous studios, but let's start off with the first one, and the most, controversial one. Tango Gameworks, the makers of Hi-Fi Rush, which was arguably their best game of last year. There was a few rumors around, because Mikami left, he took the rest of his studio team with him. That I've seen, something doubting that. But I think ultimately they closed Hi-Fi Rush, that studio, down at Tango Gameworks, because what was super interesting after this, once the post-mortem came in and all the dust had settled afterwards, was just how interesting the stats that line up between that game and the amount of people that unlocked achievements on that game. And these achievements were related to core parts of the campaign, completing the game. And some of these things in relation to the game being completed were showing up as like 6% of people have only unlocked this achievement.
Yeah.
So a bunch of people have dabbed into the game and not completed it. And I wonder whether there's something around this now from a Microsoft point of view is to their selection with this. Because on the surface, why would you close a studio that's, won awards, has produced a game that's, essentially got the critical acclaim?
I almost want to say that it single-handedly saved Xbox last year. With all of the turmoil that it was going through, with not having games, with not having release dates for all of these games and studios they've acquired, and out comes Hi-Fi Rush with this amazing AA experience, not too short, not too long, fantastic, artwork, great soundtrack, something really new and refreshing, and here we are.
So you've played the game, I haven't.
Yes, twice.
I'm waiting for the physical release from Limited Run, where they're going to stiff me. I know.
I'm almost surprised if they shut down at this rate.
But I'm guessing the critical acclaim is backed up. I mean, from what I've seen, it looks great.
It's a fantastic game. You'll love it. It's really good fun.
But still, I don't quite understand. That's the only thing I can think of, is that Xbox are now looking at this whole situation and going, Well, we need to look at playtime on these games.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only logical conclusion I can come to that makes any type of sense. But even so, why close that? Why not get the talent from that studio working against something that is, might have more broader appeal, perhaps?
Yeah.
And they could still bring all of that, unique talent that they brought to Hi-Fi Rush. But that obviously bent a lot of people's noses out of shape. Xbox went into, well, the whole of Twitter and all of that stuff went into meltdown, essentially, which I don't blame them. This is probably worse than the first party announcement, I thought. That certainly resonated that way.
Oh, and those rumors are creeping back up as well. I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll get into those at some point, but yeah.
It's all going down. Then the one that you could perhaps understand. Arcane Austin.
See, no, I'm not.
You can understand from Redfall perspective, perhaps only, but when you look at the back catalogue, it's some great titles.
Fantastic critically acclaimed games, especially Prey. Prey, a game that I completely dumped on when it first came out, and later on realized that it really wasn't great because of the hardware that I had at the time. I went back and played Prey as soon as Xbox bought Bethesda and it arrived on Game Pass. And playing it on the Series X, oh my God, it's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
So, but the part that bothers me the most about this is we can't be at a point in gaming or in the gaming world where you're only as good as your last game. And just negate all of the fact that they made some great games in the past, and just ignore the fact that, Tango made Evil Within 1 and 2, had great talent over there like Shinji Mikami. They were pitching Hi-Fi Rush 2 at one point, and just to say, no, we need to save some money here. You're a $3 trillion company.
Yeah.
What money are you talking? Do you know what $3 trillion looks like? The word million gets thrown around. So, no, we're going to break this down. We're going to learn something today, right? A million is 6 zeros, right? A billion is 1,000 million, okay?
Yeah.
A trillion is 1,000 billion.
Yeah.
Microsoft had 3 of them. What money are you trying to save here?
I have no idea.
And then Matt Booty, the dumbass, turns around and says, oh, we need more talent in Japan, and then closes a Japanese studio 6 months later. Like, what is he,
nothing
devil
adds
himself?
Nothing's adding up with what they are saying. And even the Sarah Bond Bloomberg interview, which was so awkward.
Come on, that was the most scripted. I'm going to swear. Carry on.
It was literally a scene out of Bruce Almighty. She was asked specifically impressed about this situation of Tango closing down, and it was like, that was literally it. She didn't make any sense there whatsoever.
What? It explains why she announced very weirdly and prematurely that they're opening a mobile game app store. Well, why would you announce that on a random Bloomberg interview in the most tumultuous time of Xbox's history when you haven't even announced portable hardware yet? What are we doing here? You trying to create buzz at the worst point in the company's history? Like, what are we doing?
The thing is, I think it is real. The way that she made the announcement on it was obvious deflection, because it's not rolling out with bells and whistles.
Yeah.
It's literally little tiny bits on there. Oh, who wants to? Oh, you can get Candy Crush for it. Oh, amazing. Let's play that game again.
Do you know how much my wife has spent on Candy Crush credits? When I get my...
I wouldn't like to think.
Oh, every month I get my little Apple receipt that pops up in my email, and there's $9.99, $7.99. I'm like, stop. I'll get you into a proper game if you want to. Yeah, I don't care if it's Destiny or something. Like, you got to play something real.
Wow. My wife's like that with Matchington Mansion, but it's all free.
Oh, no, that's how it starts, man. That's how it starts. It's like crack.
So, outside of that then, obviously Arcane Austin, looking at the Redfall side of things, obviously I got it incredibly wrong. Why are they talking about it? Why aren't they talking about it? They're saving it for June. There was the kiss of death on it.
No way of predicting that would happen. I mean, even 5 hours up until the announcement was made on X, you could see on the Steam, I think it's like the Git repo, where people push developer code. 5 hours before that, they were pushing updates. So they were working on something actively.
Yeah.
But actually, news just broke out today that last patch that they were almost finished doing actually is coming out. So
It is,
we're going to get the final, plastering on the
Yeah.
cracks at least.
So a little bit of info on that, because it seems like the perfect brief segue. The final update, which is Game Update 4, it's going to bring...
Only 4?
It's going to bring revamped neighborhood and nest systems into the game. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means.
The hell's a nest
Whether they're going to
system?
change the locations to it, or whether they're going to make the area more interesting from a battle point of view. This is an interesting one on this, by the way. Single player pausing. You would have thought that you could pause the game in single player.
You know what this reminds me of? Do you remember back on the Master System 2, there was a big plastic pause button on the console itself?
Yeah.
I feel like we need to go back to that at this point, just so it's not forgotten about.
An offline mode, because this game was forcing you to stay online in order to be able to play it.
Yeah.
And more. Ooh. So I don't think you're going to get that fast travel back to the other world, to be honest with you. But one could always hope, and maybe we'd scrape back into it. But I think this is officially the last you're going to hear about Redfall.
I was
on this podcast.
really rooting for this game. I wanted it to succeed. It had the elements to be a good game if the extra bit of work was being put into it. And it seemed like it was.
Yeah.
But I feel sorry for the people who bought the buyback edition more, if I'm honest.
Well, yeah, because they're not even getting compensated back with money.
No, you got to fill out a form and request it.
Fill out a form and you get like an IOU credit, I'm guessing, to, I don't know the full details of it, but
Here's
I'm assuming it's
t-shirt
not
from the Arcane store.
I don't know what it's going to be. Just give people their money back, for goodness sake. You've got enough money, Microsoft. Honestly, you just bought Mistral AI the other day. Anyway... So not only that, it wasn't just that, it was also Alpha Dog Games and Roundhouse Games. One worked on Mighty Doom on the mobile, which I've got to be honest, I played a bit of it, it was rubbish. And then the other worked on some of the online stuff for Bethesda for the... what's the online?
Elder Scrolls. They've actually been absorbed into that team, the majority of them. So fortunately for those guys... they've just been relocated.
They've still got jobs and stuff. Yeah.
But this is just the tip of the iceberg. The rumors swirling around that there's another round of layoffs that's going to be happening sometime around after the summer showcases is thick and fast. The rumors are popping up again. We may be adding more games to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. And I'm at that point now. Like, is exclusivity done? And if it is, let's just do away with all of it, because we did, and I know I'm segueing into your thing here, but we did just get the financial earnings report from Square Enix, and they are really struggling over there as well. And there's
it's all across the board, I think.
Yeah, massive rumors and speculation that the Final Fantasy VII Remake games could be coming to other platforms, which is fantastic news. So, is this a good thing?
The whole market's shifting.
It's hard to answer that question, isn't it? Is it a good thing? Because on one hand, it's like, well, it's a great thing because everyone gets to play more games. Game companies make more money. But then on the other hand, the people who've already invested are going to get burnt and bit. Someone like myself who owns all 3 major consoles. Well, why do I need them all now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I guess so. Yeah.
I get it from the Nintendo perspective. There's more bang for buck there. There's stuff that will just never come out anywhere else.
Well, they've played a blinder out of all of this.
Yeah.
Incredible blinder. They've never, cannibalized their prices of their games, and that's paid off.
Well,
not massively. Like their first party games, they've not absolutely dropped. Like if you go into on an average, if you take an average across all of the games that you can go into a supermarket or something like that and buy Nintendo will always end up coming out with a game that comes out, and a lot of their titles will not drop below 40.
Yeah, or they'll just stay $79.99 for eternity.
Yeah.
On the digital store.
It's not good for bargains, let's put it that way. But
you get cheap hardware and even more expensive games. It's the Apple model. Well, actually, no, Apple's expensive and expensive.
And the peripherals and all of that stuff as well.
God.
And then just to add to the Xbox woes. So we know Xbox love to market. They love their marketing. but except it's more about controllers than it is the games.
Oh, it's more
So
about the
they-
messaging at this point.
They just keep coming out with a new controller every week. Look, we know you've got a design lab. Just add some textures on it and just say, look, we've done an update. Here's this. You can now get it in this pattern. You don't need to release these special limited edition controllers every 5 minutes. As I say that, as I picked up one of theirs once about 2 months ago.
Oh, God.
But yeah, basically they came out with like a sunburst orange controller on the day of the layoffs. It said, feel the burn.
Yeah.
Which was probably
on
not the best.
day people got fired. Feel
Yeah.
the burn. The pun is strong.
It is.
And I think later on they even went back and renamed the Xbox Wire article to something else, like Summer Heat or some other rubbish.
Yeah, they had to U-turn on that, and this is not the first time that's happened either.
Well, it sounds like not only is the rest of the corporate business unit of Microsoft not talking to marketing, but apparently
they're not talking to each other at all.
But apparently, the employees didn't even know they were being laid off until that morning. Matt Booty sends out an email and says, by the way, have sensitivity around the situation. X, Y, and Z are leaving. And everyone's like, what? It's insane.
That's crazy. It's always as bad as Elon Musk when he cleared Twitter out, but you can kind of understand why he had to do that.
You can understand that because, what did he say? It turns out that you don't need many people to run X, and he's fired 75% of it. And guess what? X is running just fine.
Yeah.
Great little platform now. But this is the part that really baffles me, okay? So they want to save and have cost-cutting measures. The industry's suffering across the board, blah, 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 blah. If that's the reason you want to go with, fine. But then a week and a half later, they announced that Activision is creating a new studio in Poland called Elsewhere. And apparently they've hired all these storytelling experts who've worked on The Last of Us, Cyberpunk, Destiny, Uncharted, Division,
Witcher,
Far Cry, The Witcher. So hang on a second. Are you saving money or are you spending money? Which is it? You can't say that we need more presence in Japan, get a Japanese studio, have great results, and then get rid of them because the next game was too far down the pipe. Mm-hmm. And that makes me wonder, and makes me worry as well. First of all, who's next on the chopping block? And second of all, what games are most likely to be cancelled? Because I can name a good few games that I don't think we're ever going to see the light of day. Perfect Dark being the biggest culprit here.
You reckon?
I reckon. The development team has shifted and called in so much outside help, and we've yet to see a screenshot, a character model, a rendering, someone with a paintbrush talking about Joanna Dark. Nothing. Not a single interview. It's progressing. We're in such and such stage. My worry's not for that though, because who cares? All right, we haven't had Perfect Dark for 20-something years. All right, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Was rubbish anyway, so I'm not too bothered.
Rubbish. But I'm more worried about studios like, what's it called? Double Fine. Mm-hmm. Right? Double Fine, and what's the other one? Ninja Theory.
Yeah.
So Double Fine, we all know, made a fantastic game, Psychonauts 2, but we don't know anything about what they're working on. And I hope for their sake they announce something at this year's one of the conferences this year. To save their employee roster. But Ninja Theory, well, we've got Hellblade 2 coming out in a few days or a week or so from where we are now. And I know that they announced Project Mara, which we don't know if it's an actual game or if it's an engine or something that they're... So what's their next game? How are they stopping themselves from being cut in the next round of layoffs? This is where my mind's going.
Again, as well, this is... Let's just get into this element, because an offshoot of this element is really about Game Pass, right? And I'll start off on that Hellblade, because it's a really odd choice for me. It's a game that, again, they're going to cannibalize. There's no physical copy of this game, by the way. So no one's just going to randomly shop at, go into a supermarket or go into a game shop and just buy something on a whim. And I think that's very overlooked, because you make impulse purchases sometimes, right? But Hellblade, we know, is not a very big game in terms of length. In terms of the length of this title. So if they're looking for people, I think Xbox need to figure out what is it that they are setting out to do with Game Pass. Are they trying to grow their subscriber base where you get loyalty, like someone would roll a Spotify subscription for ages, which is a lot easier to access a Spotify subscription because you're constantly interacting with Spotify, you can multitask, You can do other stuff whilst you do it. You can't really do that with gaming. But it's almost like they've got this mentality, either like they're selling an Office 365 subscription, which you need in a different use case for work and to do business, or Spotify, which can be used in a different case where you can access that material a lot easier. Hellblade's just a bit of a weird one for me, because you're going to get what? You might get people rolling into Game Pass for a month.
Yeah.
For that particular title, and then they'll roll out again. So what doesn't add up for me is this. They've got a marketing problem, which we know what it is, and look, Hellblade marketing did start to ramp up, but
only after the outrage, though.
Only after the outrage, yeah.
And Aaron Greenberg got to a point where he's now posting business updates on X, saying we've got X amount of money going towards such and such advertisement, side of buses. Here's some hero assets. Why are you using words like hero and assets to the general public? Unless you're in some sort of design role in your professional career, you're not going to know what they are. Like, what are we doing here? You're just trying to get everyone in the family to do the work.
I don't know, but what doesn't make sense for me is the way that they've set this model up is, one, you need to make sure you get the right choice of games. If you are going for loyalty, then you need to decide what those particular games are. Hellblade's a weird one because you will get subscription leak immediately off that. You'll get people roll in and roll out. If Hellblade is like the game that certain people want to play and they're looking to get new people in. Equally, at the same time, what Xbox aren't doing is doing big marketing efforts around new stuff that is coming into Game Pass month per month. Because if people were more aware of all the rotation and all of the games that were coming in, people would be more consciously aware that there's a lot of content coming into Game Pass. And sometimes it might be, from different third-party people that are producing these. Or you might get something of a Power World situation, which is kind of timed exclusive to Xbox at the moment. Not that I don't think they did a deal on that, but it was just the PS5 version wasn't done. But they're not pushing the brand. And if the brand isn't consciously in the mind of people, and this harks back to something I've mentioned a couple of times on this podcast before, if you're constantly not in people's brains at all times, then people are less likely to interact. And what I think's been happening here for Microsoft was, pre this big cost of living crisis, the Game Pass model looked like it could be sustainable if it got the growth it needed. And the problem is that there's been way too much churn that has continually happened, which is why, yes, their Game Pass numbers are growing, but how much leakage is happening from people cancelling their subscriptions? So that growth is just a lot slower rate than what they need to be versus the money they're spending to cannibalize sales on physical copies. Like, this is what Sony aren't doing. Sony aren't putting up on PlayStation Premium Final Fantasy Rebirth. You can play it day one, no cost. They're making money off those games. And they're about to do it again with Call of Duty.
But here's where I'll argue with you on that, okay? Because I've seen the narrative lately as well. Everyone's talking about Game Pass is the problem. Game Pass has caused this kind of massive shift in the industry where everyone's sort of feeling the burden now. But I'll go ahead and say this. I think it's more to do with the cost of living crisis since COVID rather than the Game Pass cannibalization. And I say that because of this, all right? You mentioned Final Fantasy as an example. Final Fantasy isn't on Game Pass, but yet Square Enix are having major financial problems at the moment. There are a lot of publishers and developers out there who don't put their games on Game Pass, which you could argue is part of the problem why Game Pass isn't as popular, and they're suffering also. So I'm not going to equate the state of the industry all down to the fact that Game Pass is, not making enough money. You know what I mean? I think the Game Pass model, it definitely is disruptive, and it's definitely going to upset a lot of people, especially on other platforms. But, I think, especially when it comes to Game Pass and Xbox, I think their issue is just having a consistent roadmap, right? Phil Spencer's gone on record and said it enough times. We want to have one first-party release every quarter. So that's at least four major games. and then you can sprinkle in between some indies and double A's and stuff like that. So you've got a consistent output of games just from Xbox's first-party studios. And then you've got the random indies and then the ID Xbox program and all of the third parties that want to jump in on there as well. The idea with a subscription service is to keep giving the audience something to chomp on while they're wrapping up their content so that they say, oh, actually, I don't need to cancel. I want to play this thing. Same with Netflix. I want to watch that. Music's a little different because music is so reusable that, you know, I still go back and listen to songs from the 70s and 80s. You know, it's great. So that it doesn't have that problem. But it really, I think it's just a Microsoft management problem at this point. And I keep hearing a lot about, is it time for Phil Spencer to go? The pitchforks are out. The torches are burning. Everyone's coming for Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this question. Do you think it's a Phil Spencer problem? I've been thinking about this the past couple of weeks, and I originally wanted to say yes, but I'll let you go first.
Look, I don't listen to the internal conversations that are happening in Microsoft. I think there's meddling that's happening outside the Xbox division into Xbox that's forcing certain situations. Or especially around the layoffs, at least.
Yeah, they're not sending enough copies of Office, and they.
Well, I think I think Satcher's getting involved. Apparently, he's not. But it just seems weird that there's been a command that's come up from high to say, look, we need to lay off X amount of people. You can't say that didn't come from there.
And that's
right?
exactly my point. So a lot of people want to blame Phil, and don't get me wrong, my thought process, I started going to Phil as well and saying, I've had enough of this. We need someone who's a bit more, you know, something else. But I'll say this. Phil came in at a time where Xbox was at its worst.
Yeah.
He unbundled Kinect, brought back Compat, fixed a lot of the problems with, you know, third-party relationships, getting content, and even the conception and delivery of Game Pass itself, right? So I don't think Phil's the problem. What I would like, though, is somebody who is a bit more cutthroat, someone who is of the same cloth and caliber as someone at Nintendo or Sony. You know, we've got a great game. It's never going to come to your platform. And Sony do it in such a way that, yes, I've gone on record and said I'm not the biggest fan of their business practices, the way they cannibalize certain things. You know, I think Resident Evil Village is a classic case. They sign agreements with Capcom. Yes, we will own your marketing rights. In return, you will never put a version of this game on any subscription service, whether it's NVIDIA GeForce Now or Game Pass or whatever else there's out there. And you're never allowed to make a version of this game that's graphically superior than the version that's on PlayStation. And they've been doing this because Xbox have more powerful hardware. And that's where a lot of the conversation comes lately. It's like, well, Xbox has got this amazing box that's supposed to be 2-point-something teraflops higher than PlayStation. Why are we not getting the games? Well, because there's these shady deals that happen in the background. So there's stuff like that happens. But at the same time, Sony do good in the world, and they go and pay for projects like Shenmue 3. All right, the game wasn't what people wanted, but they funded that. At a time where Capcom was suffering, they funded Street Fighter 5, hence they got the exclusivity for that. You know, what's the other one? There was another game they did. Oh, Final Fantasy 7. They were the ones who really funded and pushed for that, hence the exclusivity on that as well. So, you know, I can't say that it's all down to them. Spyro, Crash, they reinvigorated some of the, you know, reignited some of the most lovable franchises out there.
Yeah.
But I think exclusivity is coming to an end. It has to. Otherwise, the whole ship goes down.
Yeah, it does feel like the reverberations are there across the board. I still think, though, it's been confirmed, apparently the new COD's going to be coming out around about late October.
That's not a surprise. And I think, I mean, this is another thing that we've been hearing lately. Oh, is COD going to go on Game Pass? Is it not?
Apparently it is.
And only just. And it baffles me that even after you clear the Activision deal, you change all the furniture, money's going into the new bank account now, and yet we still don't know what's going on. All right, we got Diablo 4 in, March, when you were trying to make up for 4 games going over and doing a bit of damage control. What's going on with Call of Duty? It doesn't even matter if you're a Call of Duty fan at this point, or you love the series or hate it. What's going on? Why have we not heard anything about Black Ops coming to Game Pass or Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3
the back
collection?
catalog,
Anything. Okay, you can't talk about Call of Duty because of certain contractual obligations. Fine. What about the other IPs? We've kicked the ball off. We're going to get Hexen and Heretic and Soldier of Fortune up and running. We've got Crash.
I saw an image of him with that T-shirt on.
Yeah.
Still hasn't happened.
We've got Crash Bandicoot 5 in them. Something. And I swear to God, this summer showcase, this Xbox showcase, needs to be the best bloody showcase they've ever had in the history of their company. Like, their life depends on it. Because I'm at the point of, if this doesn't work out for them, and I've already started thinking about jumping ship. I've racked up friends. I've racked up purchases that I still haven't played. Now, mate, call me Timothy. Call me Timothy. I'm about ready to jump ship. And I hate the fact that I have to do this because I've racked up such a great ecosystem / experience that I've got on Xbox. I like being on Xbox. I like everything about it. Could things be better? Sure. Could there be a bit more games being released? Absolutely. I'll always take more games. But this is, we can't keep going through this. It's like a bad relationship. You know, if you're in a bit of a relationship and, you know, things aren't working out for you, then you've got to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I'm at that point.
There's one step forward, 2 steps back with this company at the moment.
Yeah, you can't buy all these studios and then do nothing with them.
And then close them down.
And then close them down.
I don't know. I've got my own opinions on the Call of Duty side of things. I think they should put their back catalogue on Game Pass. Full back catalogue of Call of Duty. I don't think they should put their latest game on Game Pass, personally. Because, again, it's sales cannibalization, you could argue.
No,
but there's also...
That's how you fix the Game Pass problem. One thing that people will continuously pay for is Call of Duty. That's why they make one every year. You put the latest Call of Duty on Game Pass, then you're guaranteed to have that person subscribe to Game Pass for the next 12 months for Call of Duty alone.
Yeah, but it works out more expensive than just buying the game. Like, at least make Call of Duty... Well, yeah. No, you can't. They can't even make it an exclusive Game Pass only game, can they?
Not for the time being, no.
Yeah.
But in future you can. But okay, if you only play Call of Duty and you're that kind of person and every year that buys only Call of Duty, then fine, I can understand. Game Pass is not for everyone. But if you play at least one other game, then it more than pays for itself. Plus, you've got to remember, not only are you getting Game Pass, but you're also getting the online capabilities as well, which used to be a separate product from Xbox Live.
Yeah.
So your $15 a month or whatever it is in the UK, $11.99, I don't know what it costs at the moment over there, it's going to be well spent. Put Black Ops, what are we on now? Black Ops 5?
I don't know,
6,
I've lost
7?
The whole naming system for that game is as bad as the Xbox naming.
Yeah, well, rumor has it it's Black Ops, I don't know where we are.
6, I think.
0.5.
I don't know. But I think that so I was thinking about this in a bit more detail. I was like, well, how do you offset people that perhaps are these COD players? Because if you look at most FIFA players, most Call of Duty players, and most Fortnite players, they're the kind of free bands of games where you pick up a lot of people that will play that game only and nothing else. So how can you loop those people in? I think that they could take advantage of the perk system that you get on Game Pass. Every month there's new stuff on there that you can have. And if they really wanted to sweeten the deal, they could say, look, subscribe to Game Pass. You get the map packs, all of this other stuff that's coming out for it.
Yeah, Battle Pass.
Included.
Easy. Battle Pass. Battle Pass is $40 a year. Throw that in there. We'll drip feed you Battle Pass. Every 3 months you get a map and some boots or something.
Exactly. So that's one way it can work, I think. But they'd have to sweeten the deal than someone just buying a game, outright. Have they got the ability of doing... I've never read deeply into the documents of the CMA deal, but are they able to at least do what PlayStation used to be able to do for a while was, yes, the game was multi-plat, but PlayStation always tended to have
marketing
a couple
rights.
Of sweeteners in to, exclusive content towards their edition.
I'm a bit rusty
I don't know if they're able to do that, but
I'm a bit rusty on the intricacy of the agreement. What I do know is they have to serve Call of Duty for a minimum of 10 years on all platforms before even thinking about taking it off.
Right.
and it has to be feature parity with any other version of the game. So if it comes out on PlayStation, it's got to have all the same bells and whistles. You can't purposely have a stripped down version. I don't know how they're going to get around that with Switch, because apparently it's coming out on Switch as well. Good luck. Or maybe the Switch successor, as they call it.
Well, that's what they
that
should
problem.
do. There's just no point. Although I've got to be honest with you, I've got Overwatch on the Nintendo Switch, and it's surprisingly playable.
Yeah, it's Overwatch though. There's not really much to it. It's Overwatch.
But yeah, so that's kind of where things are. And just another thing, switching base from Game Pass to a similar model that's been adopted by Ubisoft. You look at what's being said online, and people are like, that new Star Wars game that's coming out, we're just going to subscribe to Ubisoft Plus for a month, play it, unsubscribe, because you're stiffing people on the actual, the digital and physical copies. Like, some of the editions were like over £120.
You know what, though? So, to a normal person who sits down and thinks about subscriptions, yes, we say, pay the 10, 20, 30, whatever it is, dip in, do what you want, and then dip out. But you wouldn't believe how many people forget to turn their subscriptions off. And I think that is the predatory move that all of these companies hope and prey on. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
That's why subscriptions are really one of those love it or hate it type things. It's like, oh, you can get such great value. If you remember to write yourself a bunch of post-its to turn all this stuff off. I'm generally pretty good with that stuff, but
Which is, you're more likely to just keep it rolling if you aren't squeezed like we are now, though.
And that's why it's very smart that Microsoft bundled Xbox Live in with Game Pass. Because, okay, you turn Game Pass off. Oh, crap, I can't play my other games online. I may as well just subscribe back, get the online plus the games in case something comes out. It makes it a very hard deal to turn off. I don't always play games that are on Game Pass, but I've never turned it off because I at least dip into something once a month on Game Pass.
Yeah.
If not, jump online and play a game with yourself or whatever.
Yeah. And there's the xCloud as well. Let's not forget about the,
Well, that's another touch and go thing at the moment. Who knows what the hell's going to be? It's been in beta for 3-4 years now. If they look, there's a lot to be. Not only does this have to be Xbox's best showcase coming up next month, they've got to release a handheld, the next Xbox, at least the project name, and do the whole. This is going to eat monsters for breakfast.
But that's not going to happen in June. That's
they better.
Because Sarah Bond already said in fall they were going to say about new hardware in fall.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. What do you mean by hardware? It could be a handheld. They're making a lot of noise about the mobile stuff, so
yeah.
More than likely, it's going to be the handheld this year. Most likely next year, they'll get the project name out there. I think it's Project Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. And then the year after holiday, Christmas time, they'll do the launch.
Well, we'll find out in due course. We're not too far away from at least finding what's going to go on in June. I'm so there for it. I can't wait.
And shameless plug, we're going to be reacting. So the podcast will be on hiatus for about a month. We're going to be doing full live reactions. Still just determining whether I want to cut out the swear words or not,
Yeah. We're gonna we'll see what happens. There seems to be a bit of a bandwidth on that. We're going to squeeze the lemon for all the content out of this, the Summer Game Fest and all of that stuff. So we might even squeeze the lemon out of some other bits that have happened in previous episodes that still feel relevant. But it'd be nice, actually, to be able to play some... It might be an opportunity for us as well to actually get into something meaty again.
Whoa.
Because I always feel like at the moment... Hang on, that sounds odd, doesn't it? Look, I'm all for it.
Where's my pause button?
Where's your pause button? I like the meatiness. But anyway... But something where you're not having to think about, look, we've got something coming up. I've started to get into that cycle. Like, I'd like to be able to get into a big, massive game, but at the moment it feels like I can't. But anyway.
Yeah. I'm in and out of Dead Island 2 at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing really going on.
So, just one last thing on this. Do you think that Game Pass... So, I've seen some stuff, and I've seen the people behind Hypercharge, which is going to be a game we're going to be touching base on as a featured game. So they came out and pretty much said that they've had quite a lot of abuse online. They had a first round of abuse when the game came out on Switch and there wasn't any announcement for Xbox. They've had another round of abuse because this game isn't going on Game Pass. So is there a sense of entitlement with certain Xbox players now over Game Pass that everyone thinks everything should be on it?
There's a sense of entitlement with all gamers, whether it's on the Xbox side and Game Pass, or whether it's on the Sony side and not having stuff come to other platforms, whether it's on the Nintendo, don't really say much, to be honest, but that's gamers for you, you know? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You say that you like A, you're an idiot. You say that you like B, you're also an idiot. What do you know? So journalists get it all the time, developers get it all the time. You know, we get review bombs on Metacritic and the digital stores. It's nothing new. Stupid. It's nothing new. At this point, all you can do is discuss as amicably, as constructively as you possibly can. Play the game, form your own opinion. If you like it, great. If you don't, then that's fine also. Nothing. Yeah. Not everything is for everyone.
No. You know the odd thing? That, for me, actually felt like a game that felt appropriate for Game Pass.
No, I agree. I would love that. Yeah. But I'm not, I mean, so what? Okay. I noticed yesterday, I think it was, I was browsing the store, you know, virtually. And it was on a pre-order sale at the moment for $25. So I might drop the 25 and just get my spot all warmed up.
Yeah, I'm going to be picking it up anyway. But it just felt like with that PvP, so I know that there's an online cooperative campaign. You can do it in split screen if you really want to. But the PvP element of that style of game really appeals to me, and I thought there could have been a real longevity track with that, and it felt like a more sensible Game Pass selection game to me than perhaps something even like Hellblade. But you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's never too late to be added to Game Pass. I think there'll be an initial, you know, jump aboard with everyone who's into that kind of stuff. Eventually, if it does die down, they'll give it second wind with Game Pass. I don't, you know, I don't see any problem. I mean, to be honest, that's probably the smarter thing to do as an indie developer. Make a bunch of money in the beginning with a very attractive product, and then later on, you'll get a bunch of money from Microsoft when you want to give it second life and extend the life cycle. And who knows, maybe if you gain enough audience, introduce a battle pass or DLC or something.
Yeah, just don't take the offer for an acquisition.
You know,
whatever you do, don't take if they get offering you sweet money right now. Trust me.
Listen, there's a reason why R. Kelly left, gave a lot of record deals in the 90s. I'll just leave it at that.
Does it involve a toilet seat?
Other things.
Anyway, on to the news segment. Which that was technically news, but you touched upon it very, very briefly that there is a pivot happening from Square Enix. So that was a piece of news that was coming. And just a bit more detail on that. The group will be aggressively now pursuing a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs, especially including their major franchises. And I will caveat, perhaps there's probably still some exclusivity around probably some of the Final Fantasy stuff, the latest stuff, I'd imagine. But other Square Enix stuff, I reckon, is probably, on the cards. So that could be interesting. But yeah, we saw from the last episode that they were experiencing some financial turmoil, and that pretty much, confirms it. So...
yeah. Is there anything obvious that stands out from Square that you want to see arrive on Xbox or Nintendo?
That's currently not on it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not Foam Stars.
I think Foam Stars will give it new life.
They probably will give it new life, to be fair, but it's,
Foam Stars would be amazing on Switch. Let me just say that.
Well, yeah, but then Nintendo would be like, come on now.
Buy Splatoon.
Splatoon thingy bundle. They should do a collab. I don't know.
Bundle with a
I'm just trying to think. Square Enix, what's not on Xbox at the moment from Square Enix?
It's the Final Fantasy VII remakes. That's the big
pretty
one.
Much, right?
Yeah. and maybe some of their older stuff. I mean, I know some of their older stuff is on Game Pass at the moment, like the old Final Fantasy VII. I mean, they've been long rumored to be remaking Final Fantasy VIII once they finish up with FF7 Part 3. So there's that too, which will be huge.
Yeah.
You know what? What was that fighting game that Square made back? I don't know if it was the early 2000s or late 90s. It was a fighting game, and it had all the Final Fantasy characters in there.
Oh. I a blank.
You know
Drawing a blank at the moment.
Drop the name of the game in the comments if you know it. But there was, I think it was on PS1. You'd have like Cloud from Final Fantasy. There'll be other characters from their other games.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. I want developers to start taking risks again. You know what I mean? Everything's too safe. Everything's too calculated. It's, this is tried and tested. We know it's going to make X number of dollars. Give us Final Fantasy Volleyball, Rockstar Table Tennis. You know what I mean?
Rockstar Table Tennis.
Yeah.
Rockstar Table Tennis 2.
That's it.
Whilst you experience that delay till
God's sake,
fall 2025 for GTA 6.
Put it on MetaQuest and PlayStation VR. You know what I mean? Like, let's make gaming exciting again. Let's take some risks. Let's make some weird stuff, and let's have a good time with it.
Well, I think it's going to be the smaller developers that are going to help us out with that. And I sent you a game last night that looked pretty interesting. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my Indica, I think.
That was a weird game.
So that was a weird game, and I like weird.
Oh, I'm here for it.
So,
I'm gonna buy it.
I think that's out today as we're recording this. But
Gonna play it as well then.
So we'll have a look into that. I'll tell you what is really annoying. This piece of news, and I couldn't believe it. Activision got to take an issue with you.
Again?
Unbelievable. So a pitch was made. We obviously had the Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 remakes or repolishes or whatever you call it that came out on Xbox, and it was, I thought it did really well. A lot of appetite behind it, and I checked it out about 2 months ago. People are still playing it online. All of those really cool multiplayer game modes on it. So there was a pitch for Tony Hawk's 3 and 4, and it was presented to Activision following its commercial and critical success of the first remake, and they declined it. So basically, Vicarious Visions was told to assist Activision's main franchise, Call of Duty, instead.
For God's sake.
And they assisted in the development of the Diablo 2 remake. It's like, that needs to be done. They had so much direction to travel with that, because you had Tony Hawk's 3 and 4, and you also had Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2 before the series fell off a cliff and got really, really rubbish. So they could have done another batch. They could have done 2 more batches and done a really nice job of it, and then finished it off and said, look, Tony, that's great, unless someone else comes along and re-gears the skateboarding market again, so it's not too overly simulated, because for some reason we've gone and veered in that direction where everything has to be simulated all the time now. That would have been sensational. And those Tony Hawk's games I absolutely loved to bits. And I would have loved to have seen 3 and 4, because I thought they had actually some really, really decent tracks on it. And I actually really loved Underground. Underground 1 and 2 just didn't take itself seriously. I swear it had even some jackass characters in it. And stuff like that.
Wouldn't surprise me with Bam Margera.
Yeah. And
well, it just goes back to what I was just saying. They want to play it safe, take no risks, go where the money is.
There wasn't even a risk. People were buying the 1 and 2. People would have bought. That is easy nostalgia cash in.
Oh, easy. I mean, people have been crying out for that for years. I even bought it day one. I haven't revisited it since day one. I've got to, but do we know what the sales numbers are on that?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I'd be interested to hear
but I think the sales numbers were, sturdy enough
to warrant another one.
To warrant another one, yeah.
One thing that did annoy me, I remember this actually when I did play it, and that was some of the tracks, I think, music tracks, were not in the remake. Licensing-wise, they couldn't, get that signed off. Same thing happened with the GTA Trilogy Collection. They removed some tracks from San Andreas and Vice City and stuff.
Do you think we'd ever get round that problem? It just seems like no one's going to pirate the music off the game disc.
No, no, it's not that. The problem is the licensing greed.
Or the royalty
Yeah,
pays and stuff.
because back then video games weren't a big enough medium to make some real money. It was just more of like a side hustle. Like, oh, we want to put your music on this game. We'll pay you X amount. Oh yeah, F it, why not? But then nowadays it's like, because it's the biggest medium with the biggest audience and all eyes are on it. Now it's like, well, no, I don't want $1 million for this track. I want you to give me 20 million for just that one track. And if you've got 50 songs on, Grand Theft Auto radio, that's a lot of money just on the, the music alone. And that's actually an interesting thing. Grand Theft Auto, I don't know about for you, but for me was a really good way of discovering new hip hop.
Yeah, it's free advertisement.
Yeah, there was, especially GTA 3, there was like, a handful of tracks that I knew and loved going into the game. Like, oh yeah, this is great, that's on there. And then there was another handful of tracks like, oh wait, I didn't know he did that song. And then let me Shazam this song and see what that's called. It was great. Not anymore.
I always look at this, it's similar to when, this is what I've been saying for such a long time with Rocket League, when you can buy music packs. It's like, why aren't more artists just saying, look, it's a 10-15 in that game, it's a 10-15 second clip of a piece of music from an artist. And it's like, why isn't there like a store with thousands of different artists? 15 seconds, no one's going to pirate a 15 second piece of, and you can't give them you pay 69p for a 15-second clip, they get a percentage of it. Things like that. I know it's a bit harder with these longer form games, but I still think it's a great advertising. Like Goldfinger from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the 99 red balloons thing. Or, Terror was a racing driver. He drives so goddamn fast. Like all of these tracks, you end up checking them out. Melancholy. All of these I would have never checked out unless it was due to these games.
In a roundabout funny way, because of the piracy enablement, and this is during my piracy days, of course. I think the statute of limitations is up now. But I used to go into the PC version of GTA 3 and add my own MP3s to the radio stations in the Windows File Explorer. So I'd boot up the game, and then all of a sudden, all my own songs were playing. It was brilliant.
Oh, nice.
So good. And it just blended together as well, like it was part of the radio. So good.
Nice. I still think GTA Vice City is the best.
That's why the GTA hype for 6 is at an all-time high.
Yeah,
it's a sequel to Vice City,
pretty
location-wise anyway. I don't know about the story.
Well, you're gonna have to wait a little longer because it's coming out in fall 2025 now. Game got delayed, so
we knew it was going to happen.
I don't mind it getting delayed if it means it's superb. Did you hear this? So there was something about Take-Two, and I don't know how true this was, but supposedly they lost. I can't remember the exact figure, but it was 4 odd billion pounds in the last quarter. I don't know whether this is right. It seems a lot.
From what?
Exactly. So I don't want to entertain it too much. But then I looked into like how long did it take Grand Theft Auto 5 to make 8 billion, and it took them a decade. So they can't be hemorrhaging money that bad. No, I reckon someone's typoed that slightly.
Or there's embezzlement or some sort of something going on. But no, but look, it's really simple. If you've got a studio with all of these titles and franchises, whether they want to remake them, redistribute them, whatever, however you want to package them, and all they are doing is solely supporting GTA 5, then that shows you they are making more than enough money to fund an entire studio, plus pay for the rumored $2 billion it's costing to make GTA 6 so far. They are not making any, they are not having any issues whatsoever. No, if anything, someone's embezzling. That's it.
We cannot...
Allegedly.
Allegedly, we cannot confirm anything like that. This is just complete speculation. But anyway.
You thought we were being serious.
No, yeah, exactly. Some people can. Right, so that's that. Very, very quick news story for you. Just switching back to your other half's addiction to Candy Crush. A priest has been accused. I've called this one, Forgive Me, Father, for I Have Sinned. A priest has been accused of spending $40,000 of church money on Candy Crush. So clearly the addiction is real. They've clearly tapped into the dopamine. They've got people that are employed specifically to get people addicted to these games. And Microsoft taking priest money.
I would just like to say you missed a golden opportunity to to have a better title for that section. Forgive me, Father, for I have spent.
Ah, no, that's very, very good.
There
Should
you
be
go.
writing the front page headlines at the Sun.
I'm available for jingles. Just let me know in the comments.
There you go. Exactly. So that was a quick one for you. Let's circle very briefly over the Helldivers 2 stuff. I'll make this really quick because it's kind of out of the zeitgeist now. But essentially, Sony thought it was a good idea to obviously put Helldivers 2 on PC. Then you had to sign up for a PlayStation Network account in order to be able to play the game. Now, this was supposedly notified to players ahead of time that that was the case. There was a slight problem, though. There were 177 territories in the world, and I call them territories because they're not all countries. 177 territories in the world that does not have PlayStation Network, so they couldn't do it. Well, anyway, in the long story, basically, it would have caused people to have bought a game that was dead. Steam started honouring refunds on it, and then Sony later backtracked and U-turned, supposedly, in reference to it. But this was the story that came before the Microsoft news that was kind of doing the rounds. So Sony had its own gaffe, and then they got another gaffe because Ghost of Tsushima's PC port has already been delisted in nearly 200 countries and territories, again without that PlayStation Network access, even though most of the game won't actually require a sign-in. So what is Sony doing here?
DRM.
Is it DRM, or are they cooking the books on subscriber numbers? Because they can use a sign-up as technically coming under their subscriber numbers, just like if you download a mobile TV app, it's apparently a part of your subscriber number. That's the only thing I could think of as to why they was that thingy about enforcing it.
You'd still get fined if the TV license people caught up with you and you just had the app installed but never watched it. So I suppose so.
I don't know. Very, very bizarre. So Sony have trod in dog poo there. And that's what happened in relation to that. And then we obviously mentioned about the Hellblade 2 marketing, so we don't need to circle back around on that. Other than we can see marketing happening, but I still don't think it's, as...
Yeah, it's just... It felt like that there was a horrible screenshot posted with cinematic banners.
We put a little short up, didn't we? We were like, what on earth's going on? You spent 2 seconds on that, and you only spent 2 seconds on that because people were kicking off. So I reckon, personally, they had a marketing campaign for it, but they shunted it forward than originally planned, where they could, because of the backlash, because they waited so long to come out and market that game. Mm-hmm. So I think that's essentially what potentially happened there. But I'm hearing some great stuff about this game. People have obviously been given review copies. It's under embargo until the game's released on Tuesday, but I'm hearing that some very, very good stuff about it, and possibly on the sound experience as well. Mm-hmm. And on the Unreal side, possibly pushing the best we've seen on console hardware. So
for the love of God,
promising.
Please wear headphones when playing this game.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, are you going to go back and play the first one now? You've got 5 days.
I'm going to go back and play the first one, but I'm not going to be able to do it before the game comes out. XDefiant's coming out. That's going to be...
You can. It's not a long game.
Yeah.
You can do it in a day, maybe 2.
Well, I need a headset that isn't £10. Maybe my Starfield headset does work for just not online chat.
Maybe. As long as the speakers work, give it a try. No, get it out of the way first, because you're going to want to get into the second one.
Yeah. So we'll have to pop that possibly as a weekend, a bit of action. And then something that broke just before we recorded, by the way, there is going to be a crossover in Fortnite for Fallout. So I know you don't like Fortnite. I enjoy it. You've got to play the no build mode. It will change your perspective on that game.
I don't like Battle Royale.
Yeah, but if you're going around in squads together...
No, I've never had a good Battle Royale experience in my life. With friends, with randoms. Everyone just gets picked off one by one, and the other person's looking for a shot. Oh, I found an attachment. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't know. No, I'd rather... Maybe I'm old school. I prefer Call of Duty Team Deathmatch.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Well, anyway, for those that do enjoy Fortnite, like myself, we're going to see a Fallout crossover and what looks like it could be some themed building that's from the game and probably a character.
I will say one thing though. We've talked a lot about Xbox's marketing blunders, but this is actually a good one, despite me not liking it. It's a
Yeah.
great form of promotion.
I'm surprised it's taken this long to get something a bit more on the Xbox side for Fortnite crossovers.
I almost want to say that this was conjured up after the success of the show. Like,
Yeah,
literally,
probably.
and they've had teams working on this day and night. The crunch.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. What else have we got here? Because I want to kind of... we've got a few more bits in terms of the actual news segments before we get onto our featured game. Just a couple... I want to touch very, very briefly on XDefiant again. You know by now I absolutely love this game. From what I've played of it, I don't think I've talked up another game as much as this game. So it's out as we speak right now. So I watched their debrief today, and I was super impressed with how, I think it's the guy's name is Mark Rubin, has been dealing with not only just the community of early testers of this game, but also some of the top esports professionals in the world about how to create the right maps, how to create the right situations, and how to create the right balancing. And honestly, it looks like Ubisoft have took this so seriously that they want to be this new Vi in the space. Because when it comes to the free-to-play side of things, you've got Fortnite? That's a brand of people that like that.
PUBG.
You've got PUBG. But this looks like it could maybe be that first game that cements itself. Because I know the finals tried to do it, but it was interesting. But it looks like it might actually get there with this particular title.
I'm going to give it a fair shot. I'm always a bit dubious about anything free-to-play. You know, as soon as the free-to-play label slapped on it, I'm automatically like just put off, like, oh god, here we go. It's going to be full of ads and microtransactions, which I think it is. But the gameplay was solid in the beta, so I downloaded it. We'll give it a spin.
Yeah, well, it's actually our featured game for the next episode. So
there you go.
We'll get into the meat and bones with that. The other thing to mention on this, by the way, is that there is no, it's not the right name for it, but no immersive matchmaking. So you remember back in the day on the 360, you would have matchmaking and it would skill you up with people that are around you.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a layer that's kind of this generation that's gone on top of that, where the game works out that if you're losing too many matches, it will throw you in a match that you're going to win. It's a bit weird. This game is not going to use any of that algorithmic stuff. It is going to basically put you in interesting situations every map. You're going to have to get into, learning the nuances of the game. And rather than artificially fabricating you a win every now and then, which EA does it with FIFA and their Ultimate Team as well, it's going to give you those unique highs and also the unique lows of playing it, which is really interesting because there's the whole heap of different nuances of how to get good at this game. That 20-minute video you can watch right now is probably worth taking a look at to just already get an idea of the finesse moments that you can already take advantage of this game. The biggest interesting element of this, though, for me, is the fact that Ubisoft are saying here, and this is Ubisoft, of course, but they're saying that they are going to be bringing in a new map every month, which seems like a lot. So I would say there's a slight degree of skepticism for me. I reckon that there's going to be maps on rotation, and they might pass it off as it being a new map. I don't know, but there's also map voting, so maybe. But anyway, that's enough of the XDefiant stuff. Did you just want to touch upon the ASUS ROG? Because I know you were looking at this. There's not too much to talk about on this, but you were looking at a ROG Ally, weren't you, at one point?
I was, but I'm actually really holding off until Microsoft's announcement. I want to see what they're doing in case they are making their own hardware or if they're working with someone specific. But up until now, the ROG looked like the device I would pick if I were to go into a third-party solution. But obviously the battery, from what I hear, was the worst part of it. And the Ally X, from, again, what I hear about it, it really just solves that one and only problem. I don't know if there are any other improvements
There
or
was
anything.
a couple of possible small form factor tweaks, so like the triggers or something were getting refined. But the full specs haven't been released just yet. So June 2nd is going to be but this is like a mid-gen.
Yeah.
This is not like a secondary version of what the Ally 2 is
Yeah.
going to be. It's called the Asus ROG Ally X. So might be an interesting proposition. But for me, that was the reason why I didn't go for the ROG Ally personally. It was the battery life. So I went and got the Steam Deck OLED. Which,
The Steam Deck's interesting because it does have the store compatibility option, which everyone seems to be jumping aboard. So that's kind of where I'm torn as well. It's like on one hand, I can play my Game Pass games and maybe some light PC gaming. On the other hand, I get all the official support with Steam Deck, but that machine is it's hideous. It's huge.
It is quite big, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's steel proof.
It's that ugly that chavs.
Well, we cut this out of the episode from last week due to time, but I left it out on the side after coming back from France in its case, and it survived. It was outside on my wall until 3 p.m. the next day, and nobody stole it. It was incredible. So, Steam Deck, thank you for creating the branding that nobody knows, or your general average person does not know what Steam Deck looks like in terms of its brand.
Ream Deck, we call it now.
So, it's glad I didn't have Nintendo or Sony on the actual outer case, because that would have been gone. So, EA's looking at adding ads into games. I think we've been here several times before, haven't we? This cycled background again. Andrew Wilson came out with his chiseled Jimmy Hill chin and said, we're looking at adding more games into more ads into video games. How that will translate, I don't know, but it can't be any worse than when the Royal Navy sponsored adverts inside Rainbow Six Vegas on the 360, and you're inside Calypso Casino.
Makes sense though. It makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah,
I'm not mad at that. Look, if you're going to advertise, make it make sense. I don't want to hear about Mountain Dew in freaking Star Wars Battlefront. But if you're going to advertise, Nike and Reebok and Adidas on FIFA 27 or whatever on the billboards, it makes perfect sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. The most. Did you see that post that I put up on X about the most egregious advertising I've seen so far? When you start playing around in Lego 2K Drive, you get one of the Lego characters come up whilst you're driving around, literally, trying to egg you on to get the game, to get the drive pass.
I did.
And
see
you
that.
imagine little kids are playing this game predominantly, you'd think. And so I imagine there's been a few people saying, "Mum, can you get this for me?" But I don't know. It's a little bit odd. And then that was it. I think we can move on to featured game of the week, ladies and gentlemen. It is Grounded, and I have to say, an absolute mind blower. This one, it came out back in 2020, or at least it did in early access, and we had a chance to play this. So let's talk a little bit about it. Did you want to kick us off?
The fully yoked edition. This is the
fully
one that
yoked edition, yeah,
the one that's coming out on multi-plat. Since we're such fans of that. Grounded was interesting. I really liked the concept when it was first announced. The whole Honey, I Shrunk the Kids theme. Wasn't quite sure initially what kind of a game it would be, whether it was adventure or if it was a deathmatch or something. But it turns out that not only is it no longer in early access, but it's a fully fledged game with a story mode, full online co-op and achievements, which is what was holding me back previously from the preview build.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. At first, I was a little bit on a shaky ground. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it because the way that it kind of throws you into the world and having to figure out the menu system especially was a bit much. Especially for a game that looks like it's tailored more towards a younger audience. But I'm pleasantly surprised because if you stick with it, get past that first hour, really learn the mechanics, how to build, how to survive, how to sort of craft your weapons and, figure out the missions, it is an extremely enjoyable game. I've had really surprising amounts of fun with it. And I don't know about you, but I'm more on the side of wanting to actually see this thing through. I don't know how you feel about it.
I'd like to get through it. It's one of these things that I'm a little unsure about, is just how long this is going to take, because it's going to vary depending on who you're playing it with.
Yeah.
Because even, I think we spent at least 2 hours around early on in this game. You're going to go and hit a tree section. You have to climb a tree, which is one thing I thought this whole thing was going to be flat. It looked like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It all takes place pretty much on grassland and whatever's fallen on the grass between that. No, I'm really interested to see where it goes from there as well.
Yeah.
But we took this tree section and we were there for several hours.
Yeah.
Trying to traverse this thing. But yeah, I'm all for going through it. I really enjoyed what I played, albeit there are a few things that are annoying. But it also reminded me as well that Obsidian made this, so I don't know why I was too concerned about it to begin with, because Obsidian do have a good record, and you can see it in this title. And I think Obsidian, are they not working on Avowed?
They are working. I think it's for their B team.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because on one hand, it doesn't, at least for me anyway, when I first walked into this, it didn't feel like an obvious Obsidian game, because they typically stick to the Fallout type of narrative, Fallout, Outer Worlds, that kind of stuff, Avowed.
Yeah.
But this, I think eventually you realize this is Obsidian who made this. So it does have a quality and a polish to it. I think, like I'd mentioned, just my gripes really are with the menu system, and I suppose the overall general navigation of the missions. It's not easy to kind of discern where your next objective is. You do get markers appearing on the screen, but they're not entirely clear. Yeah, you may see a picture of a leaf. What leaf is it? Is it grass? Is it clover leaf? Like, there's different types of leaves that you may need for crafting or to fulfill an objective. So there's a bit of ambiguity around that. But then later on, once you're really sort of into the game, 2-3 hour mark in, and you're trying to figure out where my next objective is, that map is probably the most hideous part of the game. It is this really ugly, almost pixel art like map. And there's no compass on the game whatsoever. And I don't know if that's an oversight or if that was intentional. I say that because they could have been thinking along the lines of, well, this is, you're supposed to be lost and immersed in the grass and the garden and everything. Maybe that's the approach they were going for. I think what's happened in actuality is it's turned out just to be annoying because there's no compass. I don't know which direction I'm always going in, having to go back to that hideous map. So it's not easy. I don't mind the challenge, but this is more on the annoying side, if I'm honest. I would like a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a... At least give me a GTA 3 arrow that doesn't quite tell me exactly where it is, just in the general direction would be nice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they did that purposely, I reckon. But it doesn't work when you're in the woods and you've got no point of reference. That's where it all kind of falls down.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're out in the grass, to a degree, you can kind of look up and see, big landmarks, whether that be the house or whether it be the pond or other things like that. But yeah, in the game you can choose up to 4 different characters to select with at the beginning of it. And like Shady said, it's very much you're in this suburban backyard. You've been shrunk down into this, and there's a whole story that permeates throughout, which we're still... Well, I didn't want to read through all of it because I didn't want it spoiled for me, but it seems pretty obvious where we're going with that type of thing. But in building those bases, crafting those tools are absolutely essential to survival in this particular game, and also setting up your destinations and your landmarks to go for that next mission. And it does it in a way, actually, for me, that kind of makes it more poignant and more important than other games of the same type of genre, like Power World, where that game has a lot more sort of fast travel in it and fast travel points, whereas this game doesn't seem to. Maybe that opens up potentially later, or because most of this is in the backyard, it doesn't need to. But that was pretty interesting. You've got to be able to also drink food and clean water, preferably, to be able to survive in this game. And this is where I think they got it wrong. I get it. I understand the need to do it. But if you do it once in a 24-hour cycle, that's probably a sweet spot. But this was happening
Every 20
every
minutes.
500-600 yards that you move. And you can't just focus on a mission because, I'm going to die. And they needed to get the balancing right on that, and I thought that they didn't. Now, maybe there's certain things that you can craft, which I'm sure there is, where you can take portable drinks containers or stuff like that, and we just haven't reached that. And we're in this horrible grind bit at the moment where it's just a little bit annoying. But I still think, again, these are points of reference in games. If you want people to continue playing these games right now, especially with some of these game completion metrics that are happening on Xbox, just little tweaks like that would help massively to make it more interesting. One thing that you mentioned as well, and I mean, even on my Tim Pot Bridge headset that I've got at the moment, was just this feeling of, in terms of a game that's shrunken you down, and it's not original because they even did it in, obviously, It Takes Two, but there was just something about this that they nailed so well that all of a sudden, just having that encounter, despite visually this game looks like it's, no, Pixar-ish, maybe not, it's not the right word for it, but it's children orientated. It bloody scared us a few times.
Those spiders. Oh my god. I thought arachnophobia was, one in a million who may have suffered from it. So when they made the announcement, then they put an arachnophobia mode in there for people who are, scared of spiders. It'll make the polygons more rounder and less intimidating. I thought that was a bit of a...
it was the audio as well, like some of the noises that these animals make was so good.
It forces you into tunnels where you've got to find a cable or something, and all of a sudden in your left ear you hear or something. It really freaks you out.
Yeah, it's really well done. I wasn't really expecting to feel that way.
You can definitely see where Hellblade gets it from.
Yeah, it was kind of 3D spatial, wasn't it? It felt like it anyway. So I thought the fun factor was pretty decent. Obviously, the soundscape was absolutely superb. Again, a game that looks on the surface, it's marketed at a younger age bracket.
I feel like this will be a bit too difficult.
Struggle.
Yeah.
Definitely. How many times do we die?
Yeah, and we're playing on normal. We're not playing on the Halo Legendary.
No. Oh, goodness knows what that's like.
I'm kind of thinking about maybe we drop the difficulty down to easy just so we don't
can't say that on a podcast.
I want to say it because the food and the resource management's annoying.
Okay, fair enough.
And there's no difficulty achievements as well.
So cheese in it again.
Yeah, you get away with it,
But yeah, so other than that was a little annoying, that food and drink system. It does detract from being able to focus on the missions. But I do think setting up those base camps between spots are really handy. You can change those respawn markers where they exist. And then there's this whole other element of this game. Obviously, in order to be able to unlock new stuff in the game, you have to collect a whole bunch of items and scan them in the research centers. So you've got these little research bubbles that exist in the ground. Yeah. You scan them in, and new things that you can craft unlock. A lot more interest in the way that things like Minecraft does it. Losing your items on this game is not nice. When you die, you leave your backpack in the place that you died, which obviously if you've got a backpack full of resources, you've got to try and make your way back there from your respawn point, preferably not engage in combat, grab that backpack back, and then you get your resources back. But even worse is the weapons when you decide to throw a weapon to attack someone.
The bit that really ruins it all is that if you die and drop your backpack, then you would have died because there's a creature in that area that would have killed you. So now you've got to go back to the area where that creature's still waiting for you to get the backpack, only to die again. Yeah. You get into this bit of an endless cycle of, wait, what am I doing? I've been here for 45 minutes trying to get this damn backpack. What's my objective? Do I need to craft something? Is it worth getting the backpack, or can I just harvest new materials? Yeah. Yeah, it really makes.
You've got the option to, I guess, but
yeah, we tend to get sucked into, that's mine, I want it back.
Exactly. But here's the kicker, which is, I guess it's more par for the course for most online multiplayer games. But since we did experience Fallout 76 and Bethesda seemingly unable to, well, I'm guessing because of the way the game released, the fact that your individual, so you've got quest progression works beautifully. You unlock new research or add to the bestiary, what I call this fake camera or whatever they call it in this thing.
Encyclopedia,
Where you're taking pictures of all of the different animals in the game. All of that stuff is shared progression.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've got your resources are individual based. And I'm guessing they've done that to stop people, like if your teammate goes and wastes it on something and you need it for something else, they partitioned that off and made that separate, which I thought was quite good.
I wouldn't want to share resources with anyone. I don't think any game has actually done that. I think Borderlands, you've got your own resources and weapons, and you share progression and loot and maps. Fallout, well, that's another whole breed of animal. But no, I think they've struck the balance just right on Grounded. It's still, there's been parts where I've been ready to progress, but you quite haven't because you haven't crafted, let's say, a hammer or an axe. Mm-hmm. So now we're hunting down grass so that you can build that, so you can kind of, tag along with.
Yeah, but you can drop items for other people as well.
Or in your case, you can throw them away when you're in battle.
I can throw them away, yeah. Keep accidentally pressing the wrong bloody button and throwing them. But yeah, I don't think I've sworn in a game so much, though. I was just getting really frustrated with the constant... There must be a way to stealthily get around the spiders in this game.
What you've got to do is...
They will hunt you down in
go into the options menu, into the controller settings, and just unbind that key. Throw. Just remove it. Unassign it.
Well, that's that, but I'm on about also the spiders in this game, right?
No, you can do more damage with a hammer if you don't throw it.
No, but I mean them coming after you. There's got to be a way that you can stealthily...
You can, but I still feel better if they come after us with weapons rather than you throwing them away before you run.
Well, yeah, true.
I think that's probably the first call of action is just, right, let's just unbind.
That's the next big milestone for us on that game. Kill one of those bloody spiders.
Yeah, they're annoying. I cannot wait till I get, some weapons that do damage.
Yeah,
I upgraded
and the mosquito.
I upgraded my spear, and it literally added a single pixel more of damage to the meter.
Was that it?
Yeah. So, but luckily, I worked on this what's it called, active blocking. So if you block just as they strike, you can kind of parry, and if you do that 10 times in a row, not only do you get an achievement, but you also get what's called a mutation. And so now, when I perfect block, it lets out a shockwave and stuns the enemy for a few seconds. Mm-hmm. So I kept doing that with the mosquito. It got stunned, fell on the floor, and I can get 5-6 stabs in with the spear before it gets up again. So I was able to defeat that, which I don't think I was supposed to be able to defeat it this early on in the game, but prevailed, man. Got there.
Yeah. So, I guess in a nutshell, I think it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
You will die a lot.
Yeah.
So beware for that. It requires more dedication than a 12 to 20 hour linear title, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From what we've played. I don't think we've even barely scratched the surface of the story, despite how much time we spent with it. So just bear that in mind. But it's one you can pick up, go back to, pick up, go back to, pick up, go back to, I think.
Yeah.
And just in between other games.
And you can tell from the achievements as well, they've been adding to this game for years. Mm-hmm. Every game's got 1,000 G. This, on the other hand, has 3,300, I think. So they've really been adding a lot of content to this game over the years as they've, moved out of preview into fully yoked edition.
Yeah.
And it's only, 10, 11 gig? It's not a big game at all.
No, and, one could argue that not only has PlayStation fans benefited from that wait, they've benefited it from Sea of Thieves as well. So they've actually got a couple of cracking games on this bloody system.
Why do I want to go back to Sea of Thieves? Every time I don't play Sea of Thieves for a while, I get the itch. And then what ends up happening is
there must be so much content on that to go through now.
You know what? I think it all depends on who you're playing with, right? Because I've played Sea of Thieves with several groups of people, from your randoms to your friends to other friends who are not heavy into gaming.
Yeah.
And that experience varies greatly. I
Yeah.
tell you that. I played with a couple of colleagues from work who had never played it before, and explaining that, there is no waypoint. You've got to have one person hold up a map while the other person reads back to you what that treasure map is saying.
Yeah.
That level of collaboration. One steers the boat while the other one's downstairs navigating verbally through the headset. Like that wasn't clicking with them. They were like, "What? What do I have to do?"
Oh, right.
And I know you and I played it when it first came out, day one on Game Pass. So I think with that, I think we probably could get a bit more out of this. But yeah, you've really got to have your crew, a tight crew with this game.
Yeah, you can't just have some random with a 10p headset. Yeah.
No. Speaking of
so, there we go. Anyway, that is rolling up to the wrap. We just got one last quick segment to do. There's a bunch on my Playstack for this week, but to be honest with you, I'm not going to go into much detail with many of these. I'd rather circle back. I've just been chomping a little bit part at some of these things, and I'd like to talk about a few of them in a bit more detail another time, but I'll quickly list off what I've been playing. Quantum Redshift, it's an old competitive space racer that was meant to take on Wipeout back in the PlayStation days on the original Xbox. I played a little bit of Marble It Up Ultra, the same development team between Marble Blast Ultra and the 360.
Any good?
It's really good. Really enjoyable. It had the original dev team behind the first game. Has that same element of challenge in it. When you want to go after and get totally addictive of beating the time attack scores. But it is simple marble physics. Get past the obstacles, that type of thing. It's really simple on the tin. I can't remember how many levels it's actually got. I think it's got about 40 odd levels that you can go through, and I think I've got maybe about 10 more to do, and I've done the game. You can squeeze out more by going for gold on every level if you want to, which obviously if you're getting the full experience out of it. But I've got on PlayStation, and I'm not really as attached to trophies than achievements on the Microsoft side. Another game called Rainbows, Toilets and Unicorns.
Oh, yeah.
So shoot 'em up, it's typical East Asia stuff style, but it's not them that made it. Kind of interesting. I just bought it when Sony had that super 70% off sale. Then you saw me play a little bit of Chasm the Rift. Still, at the moment, stuck on that level in terms of where I've got to go next. So I might have to bust out the playthrough guide on that, because obviously there's a hidden door somewhere I'm not seeing.
Missing something.
Rive, which is it's kind of like basically a platform-based shooter game, but you're a spaceship or you're like a drone and stuff at some points, and then you're on the ground for others. I'll go back and circle back on that because I actually really, really enjoyed it, but I'll talk about that at a later time. I picked up Soul Calibur 6.
Oh,
and
not one I'd picture you
that.
picking up.
Well, when it comes down to beat 'em up games, my favourites are BlazBlue, Guilty Gear, and Soul Calibur. So I don't have the usual, what you would say, on the cards beat 'em up games as my favourite beat 'em up games. There was something about Soul Calibur on the original Xbox.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved that series.
Glad you
it's
told
enjoyable.
me that. Glad you told me that, because I've got Soul Calibur 6 as well, and I think there's some co-op stuff we can do there. Not really played it more than 10 minutes, and BlazBlue and Guilty Gear Strive, I've got those installed as well. So
there you go.
I'm glad I'm a bit of a beat 'em up aficionado.
You're probably going to absolutely smash me because I'm just not very good at those types of games.
I've not Guilty Gear and especially BlazBlue are not. No.
Yeah.
I'm a newbie.
Oh, right, fair enough.
I just love beat 'em ups.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed what I've played from it. Don't expect the best graphics, I'd say, on Soul Calibur 6. You can see where it could use some treatment. But then I played some Bright Memory Infinite, which I was like, oh, look at this. I honestly thought this was one of these little hidden gems that you hadn't picked up. I messaged you about it.
A little bit rough.
And
a little rough, that game.
It's a little rough, yeah. Screen tearing. Hello.
Just a bit.
I had to turn VSync on. I really enjoyed what I've played of this game so far. I've played about an hour and a half. So I want to circle back and talk about this one in a bit more detail at a future episode. But I really loved all of the different special abilities. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm too early in it, that it becomes possibly really samey. It's difficult for me to tell right now. But at the moment, it feels super fresh, and I'm enjoying the combat.
Not a long game. I want to say 3 to 5 hours. It's not a long game. Yeah, it's borderline a full game, if you want to call it even that.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting story. That's a single developer in UE5.
Yeah. So that was enjoyable. Bit of 2K Drive. Played a bit of Mario Tennis Open on the 3DS. And it's a pretty sturdy tennis game, albeit if you know how to play a tennis game well. I've not really come across much challenge on that so far. I'm just smashing through the campaign on that. Couple more then. Quake Arena Arcade on the Xbox 360. I bought that game and decided to play it and thought, is anyone online?
No.
Although we could technically get into a 1v1 on that.
I bought it as well.
Still open. Yeah.
I saw it on sale and I thought, oh god, Quake 3 Arena, how amazing is this? Just like you.
Well, it's Quake Arena Arcade. This is not.
Slight variation.
It doesn't play like Quake 3 Arena for me.
No, it does feel a bit rusty. Not. I don't know how to explain it. It's not like the controls are bad, but it feels off in some way.
Lacking something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lacking that Quake 3 actually had.
I think it's lacking that fluidity that Quake 3 Arena had.
Yeah.
And I also found that the maps, especially maybe in the single player run through, were so small and tight in terms of the size. So I don't know whether they've just done that purposely in the early rounds of the single player. But I didn't play it to play the single player. I was hoping that by some dream that people were still on playing that game in a tight-knit community somewhere. But
it's weird that there isn't anyone playing it because it's Quake Arena, essentially. It's a working version.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'd be interested to see whether we could technically get a match going on that, just out of interest.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
1v1, that might be interesting.
Yeah.
And then I'll finish up Drums Rock. New VR game purchase for me. It is literally the drums element of Rock Band with a gothic theme. There's some decent tracks in it, but you're going to get suckered into buying all those DLC packs. But it plays really, really nice. It plays as you could imagine what it was like playing Rock Band on drums, but with your MetaQuest controllers. So that's a real nice one. And then lastly, Inscryption. I cannot get past that bloody... I thought it was going to give it to me. It doesn't. I solved the puzzle on the wall.
With the cards?
With the cards, yeah.
Oh,
so okay. You need to do the loadout.
Yeah.
So often it's the opening... What's the first thing that you sacrifice?
Squirrel. It's
usually a squirrel and one other thing. All you need to do is mirror that board placement.
Yeah.
And then you will get a one-off for your run, something, but I don't want to spoil it for you, but you'll get an additional item. I thought that was the key to progress the story. It's not. You've got to beat that third stage boss. I just can't bloody get past it at the moment.
You can do things to make that third stage boss easier. And
I've opened up a heap of these cards
the drawers.
The drawers and all that lot, but...
Did you unlock the dagger?
Yes.
Okay, there's also a ring.
Oh, I haven't found the ring yet, no.
Okay. The ring is another one. But what will happen, and I'm trying to remember how I did it, but suddenly you'll... I don't know if it's randomly, generated, but you'll be... when you finish, the boss, the map will change. You'll get another map show up with just one cabin in the middle of it.
Oh.
And then you go into first-person view in another area. And I won't spoil it
for you. Is this before beating the third level boss in the snow theme?
I've had it happen to me before and after beating.
Right,
I don't know if it's something I'm doing or if it's not I collected, but it started happening. So
right.
I started getting this random cabin appear, and that's how you actually you see the guy in front of you. You see what he
Right.
is, and you play him. And the game kind of changes after that. It's not the same game.
Oh.
Let me just say, open world.
What?
You're gonna
What?
be mind blown when you finish.
I need to get
You
to
need
that
to
bit,
you need
man.
to finish the cabin. Once you finish the cabin, you're gonna go, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So let me put it to you this way: I've done a good section of the open world. I'm on the second quote unquote cabin. It's a different theme.
Okay.
So instead of having like little chess pieces on a map, I'm now controlling a character on a different type of map. I won't. Oh, I'm already spoiling it.
Are you still playing the card game though, or not? Is that go?
Yeah.
Is that go?
No. It's still the card game, but it's different forms. So now it's like floppy disks, and
Right.
I'm in a futuristic area now where it's all metal,
Right.
and I'm fighting against a robot. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And there's 4 bosses.
Yeah.
You get to the open world, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's gonna mess you up. Like it's like, what? Where did this come from? Doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm
stick with
hoping
it.
something generates them, because I've just literally got that roll of film in my hand at the beginning of every round. I speak to the guy with a jar inside the jar, and it says, "You can get that camera if you can beat that guy."
Yeah.
And I keep getting that thing rolling, each run.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
because what happens is instead of him taking a picture of you when you die, you take a picture of him. And I
Right.
think that might be it. That might change the
So
course
you
of
must
things.
have beaten that third boss then.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
Yeah, it's not easy. Not easy. But
No.
what helped me is, every time you die, it gives you a death card, right?
Yeah.
So I had some really good death cards with the cost was 1 heart, but 7/7 on the energy and attack. And then the sigil was like 3 directions, left, center, and right. So I had some really good death cards, and I just happened to get the right cards on that game.
Right. Okay.
And managed to beat him. But yeah, you're going to have to pull every trick in a book to beat that third guy. He's not a joke.
No, that's it. Well, hopefully I get there,
Stick with
because
it.
it really sounds interesting. I don't want to have to load
it's
up a
gonna-
bloody YouTube video.
It's going to blow your mind. You're going to be like, what the hell am I playing? It's a different game. Completely
Yeah.
different game.
Well, there you go. Even though we got our recommended buy before it turned it into a different game.
It's a weird game, but it's good.
So you've also been playing a couple of other ones.
Yeah, so I am still going through Dead Island 2. I bought the DLC not too long ago. Accidentally activated the DLC last night, so now I'm in a different part of the map with no way of going back. So I'm going to have to go through that now, which is annoying. Also picked up R-Type Final 2 Deluxe Edition because, instead of them selling, 3 DLC packs for $40 each, I got the whole thing for like 20, I think it was. So, it's great.
All right.
Great game. Blast from the past, all the usual weapons, suspects, power-ups that you'd expect. This is the monster of a game. It's not just level 1, level 2, level 3. There's menus and upgrades and ship customization. There's a story. I've got to keep skipping it because I don't care about story in R-Type. Why am I watching a story
I don't
for?
like why these game developers
No.
put stories in when you don't
Just
need
let
it.
me shoot stuff. That's all I want to do. So yeah, Quake Arcade, Quake Arena Arcade as well. Played for about 5 minutes and said, yeah, this ain't the one. And then with you, finished off It Takes Two finally.
Oh, yeah, I
so
forgot
that game,
about that. Yeah.
nailed that down. Got the full 1,000 Gs.
Yeah.
Still love the game. You can hear our thoughts on, I don't know if it was episode 4 or episode 3, but fantastic, phenomenal game. It's free on Game Pass if you subscribe to Ultimate.
Episode 2.
Episode 2? Well, that's when we first started talking about it, but I think we went back to it, yeah. But phenomenal game. I'm hoping that, I don't know what it is. I'm in a bit of a gaming slump at the moment. I'm not playing as much as I did during the winter. I don't know if it's because of the weather
The
changing.
weather's just fantastic at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm hoping once the June showcases start happening and we get a bit more excitement, a bit more reaction videos out there, it'll reinvigorate the passion again to just get stuck in and get some games uninstalled.
Well, I've had a couple of busy weekends. I think both of us have anyway. But I'm actually quite looking forward to having a bit of a quiet one. So I might actually get into the thick of something. But you got me thinking about Hellblade now. So maybe I need to do it.
Do it. That's an easy one. You can do it in the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really do that.
Well, guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this episode of the podcast. If you're still listening, please give this a like and drop us a comment. And don't forget to check out Hellblade 2 and XDefiant, because they're both released right now. You can go and check those games out right now. Anyway, she'll see you next episode coming up towards the end of May. And we'll give you our thoughts of XDefiant. I've said it again. Honestly, I should get a sponsorship for this game. I keep talking about it.
Get better marketing than Xbox.
Anyway, guys, we'll catch you later. Ciao for now.
Bye.